All right, good morning, everyone. Charlie, thanks for the introduction. As Charlie said, I'm Justin Watkins. I'm a partner with Faegre Drinker. I co-lead the firm's venture capital practice, and it's our pleasure to sponsor another GCV event and to be with you. Thank you for the nice weather. We appreciate it. Okay, so I am joined today by a group of folks. I will let each of you kind of give your own introductions because there are I think some long titles and also some nuances to what each of you do for your respective organizations. But we're going to talk about CVC and VC partnerships, and then talk maybe a little bit about current trends in those partnerships or in that identity structure, right? But Josh, let's start with you. Let's go through introductions, and then we'll start with some questions.
All right, let's do that. First of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you for showing up. I think I was also being told that we have to sit in order by the picture, so you know which one is who. Figure it out. I hope that this makes it easy for you guys. Now, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Joshua. I am a part of T Capital. I run the CVC activities on behalf of Deutsche Telekom AG. Deutsche Telekom AG is one of the largest telcos in the world with different country units, different business streams. Also the owner of T-Mobile over in the United States. I think I have a particularly interesting, let's say, structural background because T Capital is a brand, and the program that I run, or the CVC side that I'm taking care of, but also I'm a part of a multi-asset management firm called DTCP, which I will talk about a bit later. And one of our heritages, we came out of Deutsche Telekom, but we still are also dedicated next to our financial products, a dedicated strategic investment vehicle to the activities. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Great. Jay?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here at GCV Symposium. This is my first London event. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Jim, for inviting me. I am a co-founding partner with GFT Ventures. GFT is Global Frontier Technology Ventures. We are a frontier tech fund focused on AI and applications of AI, including robotics. My co-founding partner, Jeff Herbst, and I, we've been a long-time members of the corporate venture community. I started Samsung Ventures over 20 years ago, co-founded a firm called Translink Capital, where we worked with over 30 different Asian corporate as LPs. And then Jeff Herbst was with NVIDIA for 20 years, leading their investments in M&A. We teamed up during the pandemic in 2021 to launch GFT Ventures. We saw an opportunity with the advancements in AI, and we had great timing. So we were able to successfully raise a substantial fund to get things going. We are a seed and early stage investor based in San Francisco, primarily focused on investing in the US and in Israel, but we do have global aspirations to expand. So it's been great to be here and meet and hear more about the ecosystem here in the UK and Europe.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Mike?
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to London. Great to have you here. My name is Mike Smead. I'm the Managing Director for InMotion Ventures. We are the CVC arm of Jaguar Land Rover, an automotive company based here in the UK. And it's our job to invest in startups that are going to help JLR's strategic transformation. So we invest at an early stage, so seed to Series A, for companies in the climate, industrial, and enterprise technology spaces. So quite ironically, for a CVC of a mobility or a parent, we don't actually invest in mobility or car-related items. We're more interested in actually the transformation of the enterprise as a whole. A lot of the mobility kind of decisions with ACEs, so the autonomous, connected, electrified, and shared ownership, are decisions that really have been made 5 years ago, and they're now just advancing in their kind of TRL levels. So we're now more focused on what's coming next in terms of the enterprise as a whole. We're a relatively small team. We're based here in London. We have 4 members of our team here, as well as a member in San Francisco and also in Tel Aviv. So you wouldn't be surprised to know that we invest in the US, Israel, UK, and Europe from our team here. And we're one of the most active corporate investors in the UK, and I'm really interested to hear this conversation, because I think we've got a really broad mix across different ecosystems across the world, and I think it's fair to say that we've got at different stages of maturity of the relationship between CVCs and VCs in those different ecosystems.
Great. Thank you, Mike. All right, last but not least, Takeshi.
Yep. Hi, I'm Takeshi Kodama. I'm head of JERA Ventures and managing partner. So JERA is Japan's energy for new era. And JERA has 3 pillars of businesses. The first one is a domestic thermal power plant, which consists of 26 thermal power plants in Japan, and to generate more than 33% of Japanese electricity demand in a single company. The next one is energy liquefied natural gas trading, headquartered in Singapore. The trading amount will be the world's largest amount, I guess. And the last one is renewable energy. Here in London, JERA started a joint venture company with BP. The company name is JERA Next BP, starting July 1st, to manage and operate offshore power plants here in North Sea and some, say, northern area in Europe. So regarding JERA Ventures, the scope is quite simple: to scout new technology, new business services, and new products that could achieve the GHG zero emission by 2050, the company's goal. As of today, we have 8 portfolio companies, 3 in Europe, and 2 in the United States, and 3 in Japan. So we are very startup friendly, and the sweet spot of the target stage should be around Series A and Series B. The average check size is around 5 million and up to 10 million.
Great, thank you, Takeshi. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's start with what, from your experience, makes a successful or complementary CVC VC partnership. What is that? What does that look like? Where is there alignment? Where are there potential risks for misalignment? Josh, we'll start with you.
All right. Wow, that's a broad question, first of all. Yeah. But I think for me, the most important thing when we collaborate with venture capital funds or with financial focused firms is I would put the tone around everyone needs to know their place. Everyone needs to know what they are contributing to the play. Right now, in my opinion, capital is commodity. You can go and raise funds, especially when you have a good product, good team everywhere. And I think there's a differentiating factor of kind of what is your value add as an investor, right? And for these financial firms, oftentimes they have dedicated experts. Sometimes it's branding. Sometimes you want that marketing signal to the market that, you have a 16Z round or a Sequoia or an iconic round. But there are also financial institutions out there that can really help you with, branding, marketing, product, technology, go to market, whatever. For us, it's a bit different, right? I have to be an investor first because I don't differentiate between I'm a strategic or I'm an investor, but I have to know my place. What can I deliver? I have to live up on that expectation, and that expectation is most of the time, how can I help the company to kind of break through at Deutsche Telekom, to build successful partnerships, to get the cosign. So I think what works well is if everyone knows kind of what they're in it for, it can be a mutual beneficial partnership, especially in times where a lot of these financial firms are also competing against one another. I try to build these alliances with financial investors where I say, I'm co-investing to your round, use me as a differentiating point to maybe get access or win the deal even, yeah. That's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, okay. Well, and we'll come back to defining those roles and sort of how you do that, so everybody knows what they're doing and not doing, or
exactly.
Not supposed to be doing. Yeah. But okay, great. Thank you for that, Jay.
Yeah, so back in the day when I started Samsung Ventures over 20 years ago, there was a clear definition of the role of a VC and what CVCs were doing. CVCs were kind of pigeonholed to just focus on that relationship with that potential customer and partner, and the VCs would do all the work. And we're going to talk about this because clearly things have evolved, and the boundaries between VCs and CVCs have really blurred. And quite frankly, nowadays, at least in Silicon Valley, where the startup community is probably the largest and the strongest, it's less about VCs and CVCs. It's more defined by value-add investors and non-value-add investors. So there's plenty of VCs that are active, hands-on, valuable, supporting strategy, hiring, fundraising, customer acquisition, etc., product development sometimes even. And there's plenty of VCs, CVCs on the other hand, that don't even help with their existing mothership relationships. So the definition is less about VC, CVC, It's quite frankly, are you in a position to add value? And the ones that add value are the ones that will get the deal flow and the best companies will want to work with.
I completely agree with that, and I think so. We don't lead rounds; we're a follower ticket, and also the size of our investments is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. So we have to, we're as much reverse pitching to investors and lead investors as much as we are to startups to take our money, because we're a relatively small company in the automotive landscape as well. So we don't want to start putting in, you've all heard the horror stories of people putting in kind of clauses and side letters into things, and we can't do that, because if you want to work in automotive exclusively, there's no way you would work with JLR. There's millions of cars in this room, and we're only a small kind of section of that. So we've worked very hard on what our value add is to a cap table. And the way that we've worked has been kind of in two ways. One, as an early stage CVC, we have great relationships both with later stage CVCs and also later stage VCs. So that helps kind of in there as well. And we kind of act as a bit of a bridge for follow-on rounds, and we're able to take information over there. But the other thing is getting the access to the parent company, particularly at the early stage where things are still being formed, and we all know things are going to pivot. And as of last Monday, 100% of our Fund 2 portfolio companies, the 12 companies we've invested in since 2022, have an engagement with JLR in some way, whether that's a pilot, a proof of concept, or a design partnership, as well as then moving into a fully blown commercial relationship. And what we found is that that's bringing a lot less theatre to the table and more action, and therefore we're then getting people coming to us, and that virtual circle is created. Because as you say, we in Europe and in the UK suffer from people seeing CVC and VC as being two different things. So we've got to work quite hard to persuade people that, particularly on the VC front in the UK, that CVCs aren't, going to take forever to make a decision. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of JLR's, which means that we can move very quickly in the decisions that we make, but then we're able to move really, quickly and help them with the parent company as well.
Great. Takeshi.
So regarding the decarbonized space, especially in frontier tech, for example, nuclear fusion, natural hydrogen and so on, it takes time. So it's regarding the time horizon, I would say the investment, the scope would be, the targeting investment scope would be out of typical VCs, except Breakthrough Energy and some others. So on the flip side, JLR Ventures and some other peers, for example, Shell, Chevron, and BP, they could, including us, could provide patient money. So it's totally different animal from, say, 10 years, same investment horizon or something like that. So regarding JLR Ventures, the budget is $300 million from the JLR's balance sheet, so we can wait. We can wait for the commercialization or implementation of the frontier tech. So I would say VCs and CVCs has each unique role and a unique function, but in reality is, if we focus on frontier tech or something like that, CVC can offer significant services and values to that space. This is my understanding.
Yeah. All right, so I want to go back to something you said, Josh, which is, not to put words in your mouth, but everybody kind of needs to stay in their lane, right? Everybody has CVC, VC, kind of doesn't matter, but we're making different contributions and we have a different role. And in order for that, call it partnership, to be successful, everybody has to understand what it is they're supposed to contribute, right? So how do you define those roles?
How do I define those roles? I think, it's a very tailored approach. You have to figure out, like in every individual case, what it's best for the company, what's best for a founder, what's best for management, what's best also for my mothership, what's best. So it's like there's certain rules and there is a playbook kind of in a way that we apply. But there is, investing for Deutsche Telekom, you can, starting from, let's say, technology partnerships, we have a plethora of networking expertise, networking technologians, where these individual companies could tap into. But on the flip side, we also have one of the biggest booming consumer businesses in the United States, where we can just push services directly to the consumer. So it's like there's no such thing as, we can only do this, but just the most crucial part is, like Jay said in the beginning, you need to add values to something.
Yep.
I think every individual case needs then therefore be at the very beginning, while you approach maybe a target together with a financial investor. You're like, okay, in your certain case, this is what we could offer. This is kind of our, let's say, a suite of value-add services. Pick and choose. Is this of enough strategic benefit to you, next to the capital, next to the marketing, that you would consider going with us? Because I think we're at the stage right now where I believe that and Jay alluded to it, there's no such thing as who are you? Where are you? Are you on this team? Are you a CVC player? Are you a VC player? It's like, okay, you are at first instance my partner, and you need to deliver something. So we take a lot of time to sit down with these companies, with these founders, and also the other financial firms, to then really think and develop kind of individual tailored playbooks of how can we create as much, let's say, value for the asset. And sometimes it's as easy as, a marketing partnership, or giving Tim Höttges on the stage, or Mike from the United States, and really advocating the service or the technology. So it's not, there is no such thing as this is the right way, but it's just, you need to figure out in each individual case kind of what you can contribute. And sometimes also the net takeaway out of a lot of these discussions is, our services, our value add is not that great to these companies. So then we also say, if that's the case, or we most likely have challenges to deliver upon certain promises that we make, then we sometimes even have to step away. But it's just I think that it needs to be an honest, well-aligned, good partnership from the get-go. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to give our other three panelists a chance to answer that question about how we define those roles. But then I think we should go back to your point, which is the line between CVC and VC is becoming more blurred or gray than perhaps it once was. So I would have put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. But okay, defining roles in the CVC VC partnership. How and when do you define them, Jay?
Well, I think, again, whether you're a VC or a CVC, you start by defining your own investment strategy. Right? And when you think about investment strategy, it's in addition to the sectors that you invest in, the stage you invest in, the geos you invest in, there's also an investment style that you consider. So whether or not, as a VC, you want to be primarily a lead or co-lead investor, or primarily a follow-on investor, those are all things that you need to decide. And I believe it's the same for a CVC. You decide on all of these specific categories, and then you also need to decide, do you want to be a follow-on investor and just focus on strategic value add, connecting back to the business unit, or do you actually want to step up? And there's several corporate VCs here in the room that have evolved into lead investor roles. And the reality is, if you're in a lead investor role and taking board seats, there is fiduciary duty. Even though you may be part of the mothership, and your paycheck comes from the mothership, of course, you have fiduciary duty as an obligation to make decisions on behalf of the entire shareholder base. And that is actually a big responsibility, that if you do decide to actually build an investment strategy around that, then if you're not familiar with fiduciary roles and what your obligations are, then you need to consult your law firms that will provide you with half-day workshops to explain exactly that, because not only is it an obligation, it's a liability. And so I think each of us, especially in the corporate world, need to decide what the strategy is. And by the way, going back to the point of the lines going blurry, that investment strategy for a lot of CVCs have evolved over the last several years. I mean, back in the day when we started at Samsung Ventures, we were primarily a strategically focused follow-on investor. But in the next 4 or 5 years, we've evolved to leading deals. We're on boards, and now we have multiple investment units that do earlier stage as a separate unit. Samsung Next, some of you may have heard of. Samsung Ventures is more the traditional strategic investor. Samsung Catalyst actually focuses on components and semiconductors. So there's a role distribution, because the realization was to try to fit all of those objectives under a single CVC unit just doesn't work. Right? And so you have separate teams, separate mandates, separate leadership. And that's a model where, again, it's evolved. We all know, Intel Capital, that used to be kind of the granddaddy of all CVCs. They are going through a lot, as we know right now. They were spinning off, and now they may not be spinning off. But the reality is they also, as CVCs, have had to adapt with the external environment, but also with their own mothership situation financially as well. And so it's not a static thing, and that's why I think it's important for us to realize that you may have set a mandate and an investment strategy when you started out, but you may want to think about what you ultimately want to evolve into and what the key milestones are to get there, the same way that we would advise startups as well.
I think boringly, I'll agree with everything that you've said. I mean, I think that whilst we're an off-balance sheet fund, we look at ourselves exactly in the same cycles that a fund would, recognizing the fact that things do change. And whilst we're investing outside of JLR's core, that means that we have to go and create relationships with specialist lead investors to get the expertise, because we're a team of 4 in the UK, 1 in San Francisco, 1 in Tel Aviv. We can't cover the whole world. We have to create those relationships with great lead investors, and it goes both ways. We also, when we talk to some of our startups, they want to understand who would be a good lead investor for us to take us to the next stage of our growth journey, and we put them in contact with people that we know really well and that we work with and create those relationships with them. But also, going back to the point, nothing beats doing it rather than talking about it. And that's one of the big things that we've really focused on. And actually, the last 2 deals that we've been involved in have come directly from people asking us to invest. We haven't been trying to push in, there's 100K left, of a multi-million-dollar round, and it's going to close on Tuesday. Do you want in or not? It's really changing to people recognizing the value that we can add. And we made that strategic choice exactly as you described about who we want to be, and we're now delivering on that because who we are. And I think that's making a huge difference to what we're doing.
Yeah. Takeshi?
So my understanding is, capital is itself very commodified. So I would say branding, now HVC and CVC, these 2 sectors should focus on self-branding and how we provide some kind of new values to the entrepreneurs and startups. It's a very important point. This is my understanding. So, for example, corporate CVC is a very unique position in that we can provide the tailor-made services to add values in an investor portfolio company through the business functions and research functions and so on. So it's such kind of stuff cannot be provided by typical pure venture capital. So value proposition is a very important point. This is my understanding.
Yep. Okay, well, so we've got, 6 or 7 minutes left here. Let's, notwithstanding the fact that the title of the panel is CVC and VC partnerships, let's talk about that blurred line, right? Is there really a CVC that is just CVC and a traditional VC that is just traditional VC, or are we starting to sort of cross that line, and what do those identities look like? And Jay, I know when we were doing our prep session, you have some thoughts on this. So I'll start with you.
Well, again, going back to the whole evolution, and I know there's several veterans in the room that have seen that evolution alongside with me. There's so many examples now of corporate VCs that have even rebranded themselves to kind of distance themselves from affiliation with a single mothership, because, as we all know, there's potential conflicts there. One of the challenges that I had back in the day at Samsung was some of the best companies that I was excited to invest in, they didn't want to take Samsung money because they were concerned that taking money affiliated with a single customer, and Samsung competes with everybody, would negatively impact their business dealings with other potential customers, including LG, Sony, Panasonic, you name it. And so there's several examples of firms like formerly known as SAP Ventures, Sapphire Ventures. GV has now gotten rid of the Google. We talked about Siemens' new venture effort in Next 47. There's no branding whatsoever or affiliation. And there's a reason for that, because the best companies want that value add element without the negative association, right? And again, there's different philosophies around this, and each CVC needs to define their own strategy, what they want to be known of. You know, some firms will lean in more heavily to the fact that, you know, DTCP is affiliated with T-Mobile. I mean, it's huge. And that value add is what some startups look for. Others would like to actually keep it arm's length and make sure that they focus on getting access to the best companies available.
Yeah, Josh?
Yeah, great point, Jay. I think it's a kind of almost a philosophical question.
Yeah, it's a strategy.
Which route are you going?
No right or wrong answer.
For me, I'm in a bit of a odd situation because I'm hosted in a multi-LP platform, but I have a product that is solely focused on Deutsche Telekom. And what is one of the key risks working with a CVC is speed. So I try to not put a mystic frame around myself where I want clarity, because then I can do fast decisions. I'm like, I represent Deutsche Telekom AG, I represent T-Mobile, let's see how we can work together. I fully lean into the brand. I also am that privileged that Deutsche Telekom is a very valued brand by now, so I make use out of it. But that enables me to have very much, as I said before, everyone needs to know their place, clarity, what can I deliver, what can't I deliver. I need to work as a financial investment firm first. I need to assess your business. Is this a good investment case in general? And then I go into the T and think, okay, how can I make this an extraordinary case for you if you collaborate with me? And therefore, our overall platform has gone through the kind of evolution phase of we have different investors, different bankers, but for a single soul product, we're leaning right into it and are embracing kind of the corporate ties and heritage that we have.
Yeah.
I've got a slightly different perspective, which makes it a little bit more interesting.
Right.
In that, so we were called InMotion Ventures from the very beginning. So we're not JLR Ventures for a particular reason. And again, one of those is that we work in a very heavily regulated industry. And one of the problems we have in the UK is that some of the most active investors from the corporate side are in areas like banking and energy transition, and it's very difficult for them to speak publicly because it's a hard thing, and then sometimes they're not even allowed to do that. So having that gap between InMotion Ventures, but we never hide behind the fact that, you know, the VC arm of JLR, it's in all of our releases, and that's, again, the clarity, the value that we kind of bring. However, what I would say is that based on the fact that we're investing away from JLR's core into more kind of enterprise-wide technologies, is the fact that we actually invest alongside JLR's competitors all the time. So actually, the people who are on our cap table with us more often than not are the likes of BMW and Toyota and Audi and Porsche, Volvo, GM Ventures. You know, these are our friends, and we actually share quite a lot of deal flow, you know, together. And that's typically because some of those funds are later stage investors. So it's actually really helpful. We're all looking for that one. Sure. And then it creates a virtuous circle that if all of the automotive investors all go towards that one, then the likelihood of that one being the one that succeeds is there. It helps everybody. So I think there's a real mixture between that. But that clarity, I completely agree with you. The idea that, you know, we're InMotion Ventures, take our money because we're InMotion Ventures and we're nice people, doesn't kind of work. It's we're InMotion because we've got the power of the parent company behind us, and that's the real key thing.
Sure. All right. Well, we've got a minute left. So, Takeshi, I'll give you last word on this point. JLR Ventures, what's your perspective?
I'd like to add a different current topic. So I would say, as a director of Japan Venture Capital Association, I see so many topics about what CVC is and why CVC, if I see so serious problem, the existence or something like that. But we do not have any silver bullet to solve that issue. But my point is very clear: to overcome the corporate politics. It's very simple and it's very tough and a very important topic. And one point is to have frequent and to have good frequent communication and good relationship with executive team members. It's a very important point to define who we are, who CVC of a corporation is. This is a very important point.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Takeshi, and thank you, Mike, Jay, Josh. Thank you. Round of applause, please. Thank you, gentlemen.